is that we don't need to force it through a Temi for some of these functions. So just be careful what you put in for seasonings. Make sure it's ground really fine if you're going to season it. And once we're done with that, we're going to pop our beets in the oven and we're going to get our grilled cheese sandwich going. And I know it sounds a little odd to have beets in a grilled cheese sandwich until you think about it. I love slices of pickle on my grilled cheese sandwich, and I've marinated the sliced beets in a bit of a vinaigrette I made up with some balsamic. So all this is going to go into this rapidly boiling water, and then we're going to drop it down to a high simmer, and we're going to let it do its thing. Girl Scout. Those are already buttered. Really was. We're going to warm up our pan. Now, in order to get these done the way we want them, we need to pre-prep them. We want to par cook them all so that they are the way we need them for our preparation, whatever that preparation may be. And so we par cooked these with that in mind. And once they're done, you're going to pull them out. If you're boiling them like we just did, you are going to pull them out of the pot. You're going to let them rest for about 10 minutes. So they're not absolutely piping hot and going to kill your hands. And then we're going to put our gloves on, and we're going to slip the skins just with our hands. And while we're doing that, we will take our paring knife and we will make sure that there's no little imperfections in them. Because they're root vegetables, sometimes you get a little black mark, sometimes you get a divot from the harvest machine, sometimes you get little harvest flies. There's root vegetable flies and they lay their larvae. You don't want to serve that. You want to make sure that those little black spots are out, because whatever they are, we don't want our guests to have them. So we're going to slip our skins and we are going to clean this up so that it would be the way we would want it to use. So we're going to take that off the end, and then we're just going to start pulling, and pulling, and it comes off beautifully. You just slip right off, and then you're not wasting the flavor. If you peel them before you boil them, they bleed out. And there is our cauliflower. Let's take a look at it. They bleed out and you'll lose a lot of their goodness. That's okay. Set that in. Cooking them in their skins keeps them flavorful. It keeps all the juice inside. See, that's one of those scars that I was talking about. And we don't want our guests to have to deal with something in their product that we would want to eat ourselves. They're biological matter, and sometimes they have allergies. So we just have to make sure that we take care of all this stuff for our guests. Once that's done, we end up with a lovely little beet that looks like these. Ta-da! And with these, for the roast beets, we are going to put them in a bowl. So we've got a few pre-cut. We will cut the rest of them into cubes. Now with our sandwich, we're going to pop that bread in just a second and put some cheese on it, just like you would a regular grilled cheese sandwich. And then, once we have that done, we are going to pop a piece of beet on top of the cheese and a little fresh arugula from our garden. I think it's probably the last of the season. Now we have to wait for the indoor stuff. And we're going to pop that in the middle just for a little bit of peppery bite. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to get that bread started. Makes a beautiful sandwich. And it's vegetarian. It's not vegan, but it is vegetarian. And so it's something that you may want to consider if you live and work in a community where there are a lot of people who pass on the animal flesh. So we're going to get our cheeses. We'll let that get melty. We'll get our beets in the oven. In order for the cheese to melt really well, you might want to just put an upended saute pan on top of that, just to keep the heat in for a second until that cheese gets soft. We took the beet slices out of their marinade, and we just patted them with a paper towel to get the rest of the excess moisture off of them, because you don't want them to make the sandwich go mushy. So we've kind of tried to tidy them up a little bit so that they're not quite so wet. With these guys here, while we're waiting for that cheese to start to soften up, I will get this sneaky little batch here going. And it is just a little bit of olive oil, some seasonings that I made up a little bit earlier on today, and then a little bit of melted butter. You just want something to coat them so that they take the intense heat of the oven well. And then you're going to toss them, and we're going to throw those little guys on their little steam pan, which the kitchen fairy made possible for me. Okay, so these guys are very beautiful. These guys are starting to melt. So we are going to put our stuff on. Pretty. So, just a bit like that. Drain some veggies for our puree. And then we'll have a place to put our steaks when they're ready to come off. So you want to make sure they get well drained, so that you're not in a bit of a pickle as far as trying to get them so that they're appropriately thick. That's our little steaks again. And this should be very close. guys together. Just throw it in the circle. Really quite beautiful. There are so many things that you can do with your winter vegetables. They're kind of a warm welcome to the shorter days and the cooler nights. It's the prize that we get for tolerating our northern climes, because they are such good side dishes and entree items. And they grow so well in this part of the world. So well. And these guys. A little bit more. Someday, I'm afraid. You can see it's a beautiful, beautiful mixture. You can put butter, you can put cream, you can put all sorts of things in it. And we'll just swoosh the plate, and then we've got a place for our steaks. Squash that wants our attention. Having to think about Thanksgiving and.
Oh, where's the turkey?
Where's the turkey? Yes.
Yes.
Where is the turkey? And like I say, if we don't eat all those, we can make pie. I mean, how bad is that?
Mm-hmm.
We have our beautiful spaghetti squash. We're keeping our fingers crossed. It's ready for us. Spaghetti squash, I threw some parchment on because sitting up doesn't get the caramelization on the edges. And I like the caramelization on the edges. It is one of the joys of squash. One of the reasons I'm not that fond of steamed vegetable marrow. It just doesn't offer enough. So, you can see as you pull it down, you get these lovely strands, and you end up with a beautiful plate of almost noodles. They're incredibly healthy, except I added a lot of butter. these when I was doing diets because people love the texture, and if they're not permitted to have pasta, this is something that's a really good vehicle for a sauce. So if you're doing diets, keep it in mind. A little bit of the relish on top. And voila. Let's see if we've got any. Let me see if we've got any beets that are ready to rock and roll too. That would just be too lucky. Not quite, but close. They're not caramelized yet. They're still a beautiful product, and if you toss in herbs and seasonings, probably envision what they're like when they're just a little bit more done and a little crispy on the edges. It also mix beautifully with the winter vegetables. If you are doing a roast winter vegetable like we did last week, we didn't have beets last week in it, but these would be a beautiful accompaniment to it. So, green stuff. Call it good. So, I appreciate you walking through all these little steps with me. A lot of them are very important and you'll use them a lot. We, especially in this part of the world, really depend on winter vegetables because we have such a long season of winter. We are going to be moving forward into our potato module next week. But before we call it a day, I would like you to please email or text me the answers to the following 3 questions. What are the differences, some of the differences anyway, between the winter and the summer varieties of squash? What makes winter vegetables different than summer season vegetables? What are some of the things that set them apart? And could you please list at least 5 of the varieties of winter squash that we've talked about, or research them and send me some additional information that you found on your own. Thanks again for coming. We have wonderful food, and next week it's potatoes.